Hey there, folks. Welcome back. I hope you've been enjoying the videos lately. I've been working my tail off. I've been trying to make sure I get out here once a week. All right, I'm doing it. So we've talked about a few different things, right? So I think this week we should talk about voter suppression, right? Voter suppression, like voter ID laws, right? So here's the thing. I've ran into I've ran into liberals no less who think, well, why shouldn't you have an ID? Notice the accent? It's in Ohio, right? Here's the thing. Yes, there have to be some sort of fail safes in place to make sure that you are the one that's voting on your behalf, but an ID isn't necessarily fair in many instances because let's call a spade a spade. They're usually racially inclined, right? As in, if you live in the inner city, which is predominantly, minority groups, you don't have the means to go out and go get your ID card, right? And if they're state issued, sometimes you actually have to pay for it. You have to pay for your own freaking ID card, right? Your own license or state issued ID. And in places like Alabama, they go out of their way to hide them and make only three or four available, four available at any given time. And they're usually 90 to 100 miles away from predominantly black populated locations. And that's reprehensible. But that's exactly why they exist. Now, we already have voter ID, right? You have your social security number, you have your date of birth, and I don't know, we have this weird, strange thing called the internet. We have these technologies. I mean, you think we couldn't create some sort of unique password and identifier online and make it an online voter registry where you show up to the ballot on election day and you're like, hi, my name is Sam. This is my social. This is my birthday. And this is my passphrase. Ooga booga booga, right? Whatever the passphrase is, you type it in, enter. Sure, anything can be hacked, right? So, okay. We still have the social security number, and we still have your birthday, and we still have mother's maiden name, right? Or your birth certificate number. I mean, I don't know if everybody has their birth certificate, but I'm saying there are more than one. Actually, how about that? You driver's license or state ID, right? If you're going to actually have to have it, but you don't have it with you, you can still do one or the other. Have your social security number, your birthday, and then that thing, right? Whatever number's there, right? Multiple different ways. And if you're a student, you should be able to use your student ID. And if you have a concealed carry, you should be able to use that, right? Because it's state issued. Well, the student IDs aren't, but you get what I'm saying. There's more than one ways to prove that you're you. Now, okay, so what about the voting day itself, right? Voter suppression isn't just the voter ID laws, it's also where you go to vote. Well, they make it really inconvenient to vote, don't they? They don't give you the day off. They make you travel like into the middle of nowhere to go vote or into the middle of downtown where you can't park in the first place, right? And God forbid you need to take mass transit to get anywhere, right? And you live far away from mass transit in the first place, right? Mail-in ballots. First of all, everybody lives somewhere, and don't take this the wrong way if you're homeless or if you're thinking about the homeless, because the VA does a very good job of keeping track of its people, and this would also be a way to encourage improving the homelessness situation throughout the country. Regardless, if you're homeless or if you're a voting person, you should be able to receive a mail-in ballot to your home. You should be able to fill out your social and all that other stuff, which means nobody else has a chance to do so or shouldn't, because here's another thing. First of all, you're in a database, whether you like it or not, right? You're in a database. Your social and your address is somewhere. The IRS knows who you are. The Postal Service knows who you are. Your local legislator knows who you are, right? The local government. So let's be clear about that. There are definite ways to prove that the people that live at that address are the only ones that should have these social security numbers and these birth dates, right? And so if you get a birth date or a social security number from outside of that address, boom, voter fraud. You already proved it, right? But voter fraud is one of the least occurring things in this country. You are more likely to win the lottery, then get struck by lightning twice and hit by a bus, than have voter fraud committed, all right? So let's clear that air too while we're at it. But the solutions to prevent it are all too easy. If you have a paper ballot that is mailed to you, you A, know you have it, and B, there's no excuse not to send it back in. You send it back in and it gets counted by a person. And even then, like let's say it isn't counted by a person, but it goes through the little machine thingy, okay. It's still paper and you can still archive it for several years. You can keep records. That's the point. Paper ballots allow you to keep records, allow you to archive them, allow you to go back and be like, oh no, there was some hanky-panky going on. Let's go back 4 years, 5 years. Aha. See, then you can hand count and do whatever, right? That's the problem. We either have digital solutions that get hacked and then, oh, whoops, or we don't have enough paper to make up for it. It's like, oh, well, there was this much paper, wasn't enough, right? Get rid of all the technology for the time being. Open source is the future, don't get me wrong, but let's invest in the technology. Let's study the technology and make sure it's safe and unhackable before we start implementing it, right? But in the meantime, let's improve the Postal Service. Let's increase some jobs over there, right? Let's make sure that we're bringing jobs back, the only jobs that are guaranteed in the Constitution in the first place. So, like, I mean, come on, let's give them some credit, right? They give us our ballot, they take our ballot, it gets counted, people get elected, things happen, right? That is how you prevent voter suppression. You take all of the politics out of it. You take the polls and the voting locations and the needing to go get your ID, some asinine place. Get rid of that. Throw it out the window. You already have everything in a database that you need. You have your address, your social security number, and your birthday. I mean, that is a triplicate right there. Maybe even do like a thumbprint. Whatever. Like, I don't care. Whatever it takes to prove that you're you. I think a thumbprint, because everybody's thumbprinted, a thumbprint would definitely, like, if you got mailed your ballot and you were given like a sheet of, what is it, carbon paper, and you rubbed it on your thumb and you put it on your thumb, and that little, there's like a little section for it, right? They'd put a little section and you go, mail in your ballot, you proved who you are with frickin' thumbprint, but you can't fake that. And it's free. You don't have to go get another ID. Just saying, there's more than one way to skin a cat. And these are the things that we need to start talking about. That voter suppression, voter ID laws are truly racist. They're truly discriminatory. And it's not just racial. It's also ageist. Most of these elderly people, they're in nursing homes. They're not exactly able to drive, or, you know, it's inconvenient for them to drive or to get to these locations. Most of us work, so we don't have time to do one thing or the other. And maybe we don't have a driver's license, but we don't also have the chance to go get our state-issued IDs because we're constantly, like, you know, stuck because we're poor, because we're working 3 jobs, right? Barely living paycheck to paycheck, or triple paycheck to triple paycheck, as the case may be. Voter ID laws are reprehensible. They're unconstitutional. They're essentially a poll tax. Whether you have to pay for it, whether you have to drive there, or whether you have to take a local commute to get there. One way or the other, you're spending money, and even if you're not spending money, you're spending time to get these things, when the solutions are simple. They can be sent to you. You can put your freaking thumbprint on it, put out your social security number and your birth date to prove that you're you 3 times over, and send that sucker back out. Done. Voter suppression ended. Voter ID laws no longer necessary. Perfect voting ballot process established. Samuel Ronan, 27 years old. Our voice. It's not rocket science, people, and I'm sure I'm not the first, nor the last, nor the only person to have ever thought of that. The problem is the people in power stay in power because we get screwed over, because our vote doesn't count nearly as much when we say, it's a little bit too much, right? It's a little, I don't have the ID. No. It is time for us to stand up, stand united, and fight back.